Yo, I got my first home, bro.
I said if you don't get out of my house, I'm calling the cops.
Dude, he f***ed himself up. I've moved into my new house with a couple other roommates.
I left the door unlocked. Just come right in.
See, he comes speeding down 65 to 70 miles per hour.
My eyes burn.
Hey cuties, it's your girl, Cutie Caryn, and welcome back. So this is part 2 of how I lost my $1 million home. If you haven't seen the house tour, which is part 1, make sure to go watch it, otherwise you will not understand this. The link is in the description. So grab your popcorn and let's begin. Chapter 1. Christopher. Christopher is a key player in this story. Like, he is the reason why any of this ever happened. He was the guy that one of my friends referred me to because this Christopher dude apparently sold Instagram verifications. And I mean, I want to be verified. And most of the time when people are telling you they're gonna sell you Instagram verifications, like, it's all BS or whatever, but my friend was reputable, so I thought this dude was legit. So I was like, okay, I'll see what he can do for me. I follow him on Instagram and immediately he DMs me.
How do I know you?
Haha, not sure. Maybe you've seen me from... My friend Blank was talking about you and he mentioned you did verifications and such for Insta. I was curious on hearing more about what you do.
Maybe. Do you live in Scottsdale or Phoenix?
No, I live in Nebraska, but I've been down to Scottsdale a couple of times recently.
For what? Just text me.
And then he sends me his number, so I text him.
Hey yo, Christopher, it's Caryn.
Hi there. What's your last name so I can put you in my phone?
Marjorie.
Can I just call you?
Then we have our first ever call, which turns into a few more calls and more calls. 3 things to know about Christopher. He's 19. He's known by a lot of people. I'm sure some of you guys know him. He hangs out with people like Jake Paul, Logan Paul, and most importantly, this kid asks me to get a house with him. So this random dude I have never met before and who has also never met me asks me to get a house with him. The phone call was like,
hey, let's get a house together. I'm not kidding.
and then I'm like, oh, okay, let's do it. XD, LOL. Not really taking it seriously. And this was maybe after getting to know him for a week. Then he starts sending me photos of houses that we can move into. Picture after picture after picture. And they're all lovely and everything. And then all of a sudden, he sends me this photo and tells me this is the one. And dude, the house looked gorgeous on photos. Like, it sincerely was a dream home. But here's the thing. 1, I don't know you. 2, you don't know me. Like, what if I'm low-key a killer or a catfish or something? Then he tells me, cool, plan on moving February 1st because it's happening. And I am not about to move in with someone I have never met before. So I fly on over to his hometown. I call this chapter making a potentially really bad mistake. Now, it's December. I have a month-long trip out of the country planned out. So it's either right now, this very week, I meet him, or I meet him after this month-long trip. So what did your girl Cutie Caryn decide to do? I flew to his city for the very first time. Please, don't do what I do. Listen to what I say, not what I do. I do not suggest going out to random people you meet on the internet and flying out and seeing them, but for me, my situation was very different, and I would not fly out to someone if I felt like I was going to be in danger. The major thing was a lot of my friends already knew who he was, and my friends wouldn't be friends with like a serial killer or something like that. Fast forward, I hop on the plane and then he texts me this.
Going to sleep now. My assistant is going to text you your car info. Car is picking you up. If he doesn't for some reason, my address is When you get to the entrance of my apartment, tell them my name and they will let you up. They should be expecting you. Once you get to my room, I left the door unlocked. Just come right in. Smiley face. Have a safe flight, loser.
And what he sent me was like a list, like instructions of what to do when I land. Like, what? You're having a chauffeur pick me up? I also Googled his address, which led to his apartment complex. And when I looked at the floor plans to make sure that this guy was legit, the website said that a 2-bedroom apartment, the starting rate is $3,300. That is so much. Also, I didn't care about how wealthy he was. To me, it was more of a matter of, okay, meeting this person and seeing if they're legit versus, oh, this guy got money. Like, no, sister, I got my own money. And to make sure that he wasn't lying about where his apartment was, I checked his Snapchat location, and there you go. It's the same address that he sent to me. So he's legit. I landed, I waited 15 minutes, still no chauffeur. So I call up one of my friends who is actually good friends with Christopher, and she suggests to me that I should just Uber on over to his place. When I got to his apartment, oh my gosh, it was so beautiful. Everything was making sense. It was adding up. I met the receptionist inside and I told her I'm here to meet Christopher. And it seemed like she knew what I was talking about, and she went to the elevator, scanned her little code thing, and then up I go. So far, so good. The apartment complex was real. The receptionist knew of Christopher, and I'm about to enter his apartment for the very first time. But dude, I was so nervous going through the hallways like that because, one, this is probably the riskiest thing I've ever done. Like, if I'm gonna meet a stranger, someone I've never spoken to in real life before, I would meet them in a public place. But I'm literally walking straight into his apartment. Like, this could end up badly. When I walk up to his door, lo and behold, the bitch was open. So I slowly push open the door and walk inside. I look around. Nobody's around. I don't hear a single noise. It was the coldest room I've ever been in. I got the chills as I walked in. Also, the entire apartment was basically empty, minus the fact that there was a couch and then a TV that wasn't set up and still on the ground in the living room. I whisper, Christopher? And I shut the door. So I go to the guest bedroom, I find it, and I'm still freaking out because I am in this dude's place, but I haven't met him yet. Then I go to the bathroom. I look at his sink, and on it are picture frames of him and his friends. Woo! Dude, the amount of relief I had when I saw that. And then I went back to the guest bedroom, and I finally took a nap. Noon hits, and I wake up to Christopher's voice in the other room. I wasn't gonna knock on his door because he just finished a shower is what it sounded like. So I just waited in the guest bedroom, fell asleep again, and then I hear knocking on my door. I wake up to the knocking noises, and he opens the door, and I'm just there like half awake. He's like, Caryn! I'm there like, oh, hi, hi, hello. Everything is falling into place. Maybe there's actually potential with moving in with this guy. I mean, he is who he says he is, right? Chapter 3, meeting Jake Paul. Okay. So this is not clickbait, this is not fake. Christopher is legit. Like, I actually ended up sneaking into a club with Jake and Logan Paul. I went over to their house, I met their mom, all in this week-long trip because of Christopher. Look, it's Christopher, and then it's Jake, and then there's me. It's like me right there. And you see Logan in the back, it's kind of funny, but anyways. Then I go on my international trip. After a few weeks into that, Christopher calls me again and he says the house is set. I ask him, do you have the lease papers? Have you toured the place yet? Like, what do you need from me so I can send to you? And he's like, nah, Caryn, you're all good. You don't need to sign anything. I got it all down. And then he also tells me he hasn't toured the place yet. So in my eyes, it's like, A, I have an advantage if I'm not legally liable for anything, and if this place doesn't work out, or if he ends up being some weirdo, I could just dip at any time and get my own place, and boom. Chapter 4, moving in to my first house. So my month-long trip is done, and I fly into Arizona and see my home for the very first time alongside Christopher. And it existed. it was real. Man, I was going to live in a beautiful place. Everything went so smoothly until we actually started living in it. First of all, I know many of you are wondering, Caryn, how the hell are you living in a $1.5 million home? Simple. Christopher got the lease, and let's say, I'm just gonna throw a random number out there, the rent was $5,000. If you have 5 roommates, that means each roommate is going to only pay $1,000. $1,000 a month for a mansion? That was less than what I was paying for my 1-bedroom apartment in Nebraska. The only issue with that is getting actual, credible, reliable roommates who you're not gonna go insane with for the next year. So in the first week, we have a few things happen. We get another roommate. And let's call him Isaac. Backstory, I've actually met Isaac before, but only once. But we never really spoke to each other afterwards. All I knew that Isaac was 19, and because I saw Christopher in a good light, Isaac must also be a good person. Christopher never gave me the choice of having Isaac move in with us. I specifically told Christopher that if I'm moving in, I want to make sure that I'm comfortable with the other roommates that we're gonna be bringing in, so I'm not living with a crazy person for a year. And I was told yes, I would be the person in charge of doing that, but it never happened. So now I'm stuck with this random Isaac dude. Second thing that happens in that first week is we decide on bedrooms. This is the thing I was most excited about because my bedroom is my workplace. Just, you know, a little example here. The top level floor, which was solely a floor made just for the master bedroom. So whoever was getting that room had a whole floor to themselves. Then there's the middle floor, which had office, kitchen, living room. Then there's the lower level floor, which had a movie room and then 2 proper bedrooms. So Christopher, of course, him having his name on the lease, I was like, okay, whatever, you can have the top floor, the master bedroom. But for some reason, I was never alerted that Isaac had already claimed the second biggest room in the house. It had 2 sinks, a massive shower, a massive walk-in closet. So that means I'm stuck with one option, the last bedroom, which ends up being the smallest room in the whole entire house. Like, the kitchen was bigger than my room. The walk-in closets that these 2 dudes had were bigger than my room. Thirdly, in the first week, we got a house assistant. These dudes I lived with were bougie people, but I don't think it's necessary at this point in time for me to have an assistant. Like, what are you gonna assist me for? To go grab me toilet paper while I'm on the toilet because I ran out? So just like how I had no choice in whether or not Isaac can move in, I was also never told that a guy named Adam was going to move in. Adam is 18. He tells us he's dropped out of high school to pursue real estate and that he's a responsible, hustling type of guy. The whole purpose of the house was to live with a group of people who were like-minded, successful, motivated people who, you know, we could rub off on each other and, you know, grow together as a team. Christopher and Isaac promised that Adam was that type of guy and that now he's going to officially be our house assistant. At this point, I was so annoyed with not being in the loop of things, and I don't know what it was. So here's a visual update I made. It's me, one girl, living with 3 dudes. Oh boy. Chapter 5. Where is the furniture? Now, I'm going to furnish my bedroom by myself. That is my hangout, that is my thing. All this stuff I paid for on my own. But I'm more than happy to, you know, split like a couch for the living room or something amongst these 3 other people. But that's when Christopher tells me that he's hired an interior designer to come over and pick out furniture for the house. He said, this dude, he said that he spent $15,000 on custom designer furniture. 15,000? Call me cheap, but I was more thinking in the range of like, we can go to Target, you know, they got a good selection, or Walmart for some things. And if I wanted to be a little crazier, I could go to IKEA or something like that. Then I ask him, very important detail here by the way, when is the furniture going to arrive? And he tells me, just wait 2 weeks. Oh, chapter 6. Unknown people. Now, this is probably one of the most annoying things I had to deal with this whole entire time. I would wake up every day to random, unknown people I've never seen before in my life, in my living room, in my kitchen, outside my bedroom door, knocking for me to get out of my room. Imagine me in my pajamas, you know, just woke up, going upstairs to grab some orange juice, and then being greeted by Adam and 4 of his random high school friends in the kitchen. It came to a point where I was literally living in a frat. And don't get me wrong, I'm having so much fun living with all these dudes. And I know a lot of you are asking, you know, Caryn, why are you putting yourself in a situation like this? Well, here's the thing. 2019, I wanted to make it the year of me living with a group of friends. I lived in Nebraska by myself in an apartment for a while, and I just wanted to switch it up intensely. But living with all these dudes ended up being so toxic after a while. The amount of misogynistic comments and behaviors I received was so ridiculous. I was 100% treated differently because I was a girl. People didn't take me seriously. They had to question whether or not I really knew what I was talking about. A lot of them assumed that I couldn't make money, that I couldn't afford for myself, that I had to leech off other people in sexual ways. And that's just not healthy behavior to be surrounded around. I felt so ostracized. I was valued for who I was on the outside. I was this sexual name, this thing that these guys could throw around and say, oh yeah, I'd love to bang her, and damn, did you hit it yet with Caryn? Like, it was disgusting, and constantly feeling like I'm living in a frat was so toxic. Another thing was I would always and only could use the boys' shower. Half of the house did not have hot water at all, which meant that anytime I needed to shower, I had to either use Christopher or Isaac's bathroom. I need my privacy, and taking a shower, you know, walking past these dudes with a towel on or with a robe on, or even them knowing that I was naked in their bathroom was so degrading. I did get used to it for a while. I felt like one of the dudes or whatever, so I didn't really care, but in the back of my head I knew that that was wrong, and if I'm paying rent for this place, I should be having a private bathroom that properly works. Oh, and not to mention the constant eviction threats because Christopher would never, ever, ever pay the bills on time. There was even a week where we had no electricity, no water, nothing for a week straight. And what made it difficult was Isaac and I actually ended up getting along real well, and we were financially responsible. We wanted to take charge and, you know, pay this bill that wasn't being paid or get the rent on time. But because our names were not on the lease and we had no control over anything, we just had to sit there and wait for Christopher to handle it. And that's why I barely posted about my new house on any of my social medias for around 3 months, because I didn't know if I was going to be living in that exact house a month later. Oh, and also to add on to the list, 2 months later, I'm asking Christopher, hey, where's this $15,000 furniture? He's like, just wait 2 more weeks. Boy, I've been waiting 2 months. What do you mean, wait more 2 weeks? Christopher actually never ordered $15,000 worth of furniture. He never ordered furniture. He was just saying that and lying the whole time to use that as leverage so we wouldn't leave the house. Because if we did, that means he would have to pay the rent in full and he wouldn't have people to split it with. And I know, this place sounds absolutely insane. Caryn, why are you still living in this after 2-3 months? Well, here is the sprinkles on the donut. Adam goes to jail. This is the tipping point. So Adam is a funny guy. The whole time I was living with him, he would literally shit on me. In terms of my car, he would be like, oh, Caryn, you're driving that? Caryn, you look so broke driving that. And dude, my car is a pretty normal car. It's my first car, a 2005 Toyota Camry that my parents helped get for me when I started driving. And who are you, Adam, to be shitting on my car when you don't even have one? So how did Adam end up in jail? Well, it happened like this. One of the weeks, Isaac, Christopher, and I were all out of town. So nobody was there at the house in Arizona other than Adam. And at the same time, Isaac just bought a Jeep for himself for his birthday. And like I said, Isaac was bougie, so he bought himself a really, really, really nice Jeep. And he absolutely did not want anyone touching his Jeep while he's out of state. So what he decided to do was buy a safe, put the Jeep keys in the safe, and then store the safe away so nobody would have a reason to even touch his Jeep or try to drive it. Because here's the thing, these dudes did not care about respect. They did not let anything stop each other. So in theory, if Isaac had his keys out in the kitchen or something, either Adam or Christopher would have grabbed it and took the Jeep and left and had fun. And it's also because in the past, Adam scratched and damaged one of Isaac's previous cars against the door of the garage. Fast forward a few days, I'm in Florida and I get a call from Isaac. He tells me that Adam has been in a heavy car crash. And I immediately freak out because yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of Adam, but I've been living with this dude for a couple months now, so obviously I have some care for his well-being. And then he tells me that Adam stole his Jeep, sped off with it, totaled it, and I'm like, what do you mean? Because how would Adam drive off with the keys if the keys were in the safe? And that's when, with police investigation, we find out that the safe was broken into by Adam, Christopher, and Adam's friends. What happened was Christopher ended up being back in town while Isaac and I were gone, and Christopher wanted to drive the Jeep so bad because he didn't have his own car here in Arizona yet. So he found Isaac's safe, got a hammer, and broke into it. Then one day, Christopher had to go back to the airport. So what he did was bring Adam along with him in the passenger side, drove to the airport, left the car, which meant you gotta get the car back to the house somehow, which meant that Adam had to drive it back home. Now, this situation would have ended up slightly better if Adam just decided to leave the car home. So, he secretly took it out multiple times, showed the car off to his friends, apparently went to his high school, was like, oh man, let's take a ride in my new whip. Then one day, drove down a hill and, well, I have some live documentation. So here's the house. We aren't legally allowed inside of it anymore. This is a story and this is a street where all this drama happened. See, he comes speeding down 65 to 70 miles per hour down here, correct? So he's going at this slant. But then there's a dip here with a ramp that goes back up. So he's driving by and then the car tips onto one side. He ran into these bricks, so that's why all the bricks are messed up. He ran over a cactus somewhere over here, I'm not sure, but RIP to that. Ooh! He hit this rock and skidded across that, that's why it's black over there. Hits this light pole, so all this damage right here is from the car. And then we find out that Adam doesn't have a license and he ended up in jail. I find it so funny because this kid would constantly shit on me and say that my driving was horrible. It was the worst driving, that he's the best driver. When in reality, he's failed his driving test 3+ times. This kid didn't have a license and he's telling me I can't drive. And with Adam and Christopher doing this, plus all the other problems that we had prior, it set a trigger and Isaac and I were like, you know what? We're out. Both of our names were not on the lease, so we could actually just dip. As for Christopher, he moved back to his hometown and completely left Arizona. Him and I are still friends to this day, regardless of the problems that he put upon us. Adam is no longer in the picture. I do not know where he is, in jail, at school. at home. I don't know, but good luck to him. And Isaac and I now have a wonderful house together with roommates that are caring, kind, and supportive. Bills are paid on time, everyone is happy, and things just couldn't be more right. And that's the motherfucking tea. Thank you for experiencing my crazy life. Make sure to subscribe, press that bell for notifications every time I post. Also make sure to catch up with me on my Instagram at @CutieCaryn, and I will see you guys in my next video.